Thank you all for coming out. This is a public interview. I started doing these talks a while ago. I don't have any prepared statements. I don't really have anything particular to say to you. If you have a question, I'm happy to try to answer it. If you do not, we can sit here silently staring at each other. So far, no crowd has taken me up on this. I think the idea that we would spend 2 hours staring at each other silently would be fucking insane. If you want to do this, I'm prepared. I will stand here for 2 hours in silence. If you don't want to do it, somebody ask me a question. I'm all for sharing music. I have no problem with that. Every song I ever wrote, I wrote to be heard. So, no problem. I like that. I like it. I like the idea that people are interested enough to listen to the music. People share, people send me music. I don't pay for everything. There's no issue there. I'm totally fine with that. There's one thing that everyone should keep in mind. If nobody wants to pay, you have to be prepared to deal with two realities. One reality is that you're going to start having advertising suffused into whatever you're listening to, because that's what's going to happen. It's going to be sponsored music, and that's going to be sick. Or, if that doesn't happen, have fun with the past, because the only music that can be free is music that is already made. And if people are like, we're not going to pay for music anymore, well, that's great. You enjoy the past. But it's impossible to make music now without money. I would recommend everybody become patrons of the arts to a small degree and spend $5. That's what I would say, or $10. You can do it. But I don't have a real issue about it. Well, I do have a real issue with it. Because I think people's like, fuck that, we shouldn't pay. Well, fuck you. But I think that we talked about this for a long time, like Fugazi, when we did this site, everyone's like, just put it up for free. And I was like, but we spent like $40,000 doing this. So why can't people help us? We're losing money on this project. And I think, and I say, give people an opportunity to support the project. Like, why not? So we say $5, we think it's funny. But you'll see there's a pull down menu. And also the other thing is, and we all know this, as soon as one person has it, it's free, right? But so what? Support the bands. Does somebody have a question? Yes, ma'am. For me, punk, it took me a long time to come around to this. I thought about it for a long time, because it's not music for me. And it's not a fashion. It's not a look. And it's not even really an attitude. It's the free space. And what I mean by that is, like, when I first came across punk, I was looking for the counterculture, like the underground. I wanted to be like in the place where people were challenging conventional thinking about mainstream society, mainstream culture. And I found it in punk. I was like so relieved. I've been looking for it for like a decade at that point. I was 17 years old. I kept thinking, like, where's the cool stuff? And when I came across it, I remember just thinking, like, yes, all the freaks are here. And I felt like a freak. God just did not, and I think all of you can relate to this idea of being marginalized. You don't fit in or don't belong. Yeah, because you're fucking freaks. And and you want to be in a room with other freaks, because you don't laugh at each other anymore, right? And you don't laugh at the other people. So for me, the idea of the free space was really that what happens in a free space is that new ideas are presented. And when I started seeing punk band, I was seeing things that I couldn't believe I had never seen before in my life. New ideas were being presented, and most people in straight society or in a world where it's like they're trying to make money or in show business would just laugh it out of the room. The first band I ever saw was the Cramps, and they fucking blew my mind. But do you think that in 1979, like major labels, they would just been like, just whoa, get the fuck out of here, And I think that for me, it was like just seeing these new ideas. So my definition of punk is the free place where new ideas can be presented without being dictated by profit. That's it. It's very simple. So, can a family be involved with that? Of course. And truth is, it doesn't always look like what we might think is punk. Like people often tell me, I have a lot of people, I'm 50, right? I have a lot of motherfuckers who are 50 tell me, punk's dead. And I'm like, well, no, when did it die? When I stopped going to shows. And, which is, I've always bristled at this because in 1979, when we first started like being punk rock kids, dudes were saying like, punk's dead, you're too late, Sid Vicious wannabe, and I used to be so like, I was infuriated by it. And I was like, how do you, like, why? Who are you? And I think, so when people say that today, I think that I still just don't agree. Punk will never die because it has always been here. As long as you have a culture, you'll have a counterculture. So I feel like it can never die. That's just how I look at it. And I think that it will always be morphing. And that's why I think for like a lot of people today, it's like, well, they relate to punk, but it's so not. You have to understand it's so different always because every generation has their own. Every day we have a new backdrop, like a new landscape, because the world is always constantly changing. So the question is, like, if you just don't fit in, then who are you with? And that's all. And so I think the punk is folk. Like, I think folk is punk, and jazz was punk, rock and roll is punk, hip hop is punk. I think all these things, like there's various art movements, it's just punk. It's just to be the other. That's all, to be other. So I feel really at peace with that. And so I think within families, I feel like they can be the other together. And the kid, who knows? Like I have a 4-year-old kid, who knows what will happen to him? I'm not expecting him to don't you dare grow your hair. It's like he can do whatever the fuck he wants to do. My parents, you ready? Yeah. Are you prepared? Okay, listen up. My parents, I used to always say my parents are extremely supportive of me, and I didn't realize that was code for they paid for things. I didn't ever think about this because my parents never paid for anything with me. I didn't go to college because I didn't have any money to go to college, and I thought to go to college meant to enter into indentured slavery. Like taking out loans meant you had to pay them back, which meant you had to get a job, and I was like, fuck that, I'm not doing it. My dad was like, you want to go? He wanted me to go to college. I said, I just can't do it. I'm not going to do it. Plus, I was a punk. And at that time, punk and college were seriously opposites, right? They were like, those two things didn't go together at all. My family I think they always, in my experience with my parents, they were like, follow your heart, like, do what's right for you. They never made me feel shitty for not doing more proper things. My parents were like, yeah. If you want to play music, do what you want to do. So I feel like they're extremely supportive. Yeah. Fuck society, I'm going to destroy myself. And I thought that seems crazy that rebellion, that your only option is to actually destroy yourself, when I feel like maybe it'd be more rebellious to keep yourself together and push back against the powers and make people want to destroy themselves. Seems straightforward to me. So I never got involved with drugs, never drank, and became sort of in my high school they called me group conscience. Could I go to a party? Oh, dude, fuck, you make me feel bad, And I was like, that was seriously their issue, not mine. I'm just a human being. I'm just in the room with you. And then, of course, when I got into punk, when I saw all these freaks, I thought, this is perfect. Totally perfect, because these are people who are deviants. And I'm also a deviant. I felt like a serious deviant in high school because I felt like one of 5 people who didn't get high. And I was like, oh, and so I went to this, and I was like, great, like we're all freaks. It was weird though, because it turned out that a lot of them were also like not in, like the punk, some of the older punks were like, what are you guys, like you're fundamentalist Christians or something? Like, no, we're just, we're freaks like you. So I started, I talked about it. I wrote a song called I Drink Milk. I thought it was funny. I drink milk. His idea is everyone else was like, let's get some beer. Like, I drink milk. It was just being silly. But the thing was, at that time, at the beginning of punk rock, like for me, like we would just wear crazy clothes and then elicit reaction. So when you would look slightly silly and then some guys try to beat the shit out of you for looking slightly, like, wearing like children's sunglasses and then 4 guys want to pound you in the head, then you think, well, this is clearly working. And you're like, so then you just start to follow, you pull that thread, right? You just start to think about, like, you understand, I think what you're tapping into was like this deep hatred of the other that exists in our culture. And once you start to recognize that, then you want to align yourself with the other more and more deeply. So it started to ratchet up, and then eventually I wrote the song Straight Edge, which was a furthering of this conversation. And then years later, that idea was picked up by people who heard it as sort of a movement, which I was never involved with. I had nothing to do with it. I will tell you about how it developed if you want to hear that. Yes, no? Okay. I've told this story before, but I will tell you this story. I wrote the song. It was about an individual's right to live his or her life the way they wanted to. Because all I wanted to do. I just wanted to be myself, and I felt like people were like, you know, you're bumming me out, or you should do that, or like, we're gonna get you high. And I remember like people would say, we're gonna tie you to a tree and get you high. I'm like, what the fuck? I just seriously just want to be here with you. I'm sorry that my presence is so upsetting. And if you look at the lyrics to Straight Edge, the first line is, I'm a person just like you. It's kind of benevolent, like open, and you think about it. I'm saying, we are the same person. I have better things to do. Like, that's how I felt about it. I don't want to like just sit around and destroy myself. That's all. And it was a very straightforward thing. It was aggro, no doubt. I was fucking angry about angry people. So I was singing about it, and I was giving it direct. I had this idea in Minor Threat to be as fucking direct as possible. Short, to the point, no bullshit. Because I thought that in some way would make it very difficult for people to misinterpret my words. This is not the case. And it's very important for you all to consider this. When I wrote that song, I was writing that song to like this many people right here. It never occurred to me, ever in my life, when I was 18 years old, that I'd be standing in front of like 200 people in Seattle in 32 years discussing this. It never would occur to me that anyone outside, I didn't think I'd ever even necessarily have a record. We were just writing this. I just wrote a song to my friends who, I was like, you know, when you're in high school, like you're arguing with your friends. So I'm like, I'm gonna fucking write a song, you know, like, I was basically singing to people. I know who I'm singing to in this song. It just was beyond I could never imagine that this would have been a dialogue that would have gotten, certainly, I mean, outside of my school, much less outside of Washington, much less outside of, you know, the United States. It's just an idea that just went off on its own. So at the time I was very, like, just being very direct with people and having a conversation with them. At some point, that conversation came back, and I was like, I'm going to be so declarative. I wrote two more songs, In My Eyes, where I discussed exactly what my issues were, like what I thought about different things. And then I wrote a song called Out of Step, and the song was very direct. Don't smoke, don't drink, don't fuck, at least I can fucking think. I'm out of step with the world. That is basically the entire song. And I was playing with words. I felt very deliberate in this. Don't smoke, don't drink, don't fuck, but at least I can fucking think. That last line qualifies the first three. I'm talking about myself, that I don't do these things. And because I'm saying, but at least I can fucking think. But many people heard it as three directives, saying, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. I mean, furthermore, the word that really tripped people up was the word fuck. That's what freaks people out. They're like, the dude doesn't want to have sex. But no one ever questioned, like, the intake of fluid, right? Like, drink, don't drink. Drinking, it's like, you know, watch. Just, you can blog about this. So for me, fuck was a word very carefully picked about predatory sex. It was like people who are just fucking only to fuck. and we're like not interested, like we're just abusing people. And it just seemed like I just don't do that. I'm not interested in that. So it didn't occur to me these lyrics would be perceived like this. There's a lot of arguments in the band about it. They were like, that's too hard. I'm like, fuck yeah, that's hard. Eventually though, people picked up on it, it spread around, and at some point, it developed into what people think of as a movement. Now, here's my take on the movement. 99% of people who identify as or with straight edge, I think are just trying to do the right thing in their own lives. And I think that they are totally cool, and no issue. I think there is a percentage, 1%, maybe a little larger over the years. This is not a huge problem now, I don't think, but in the past it certainly has been, where people have become very violent in the name of straight edge. But I submit that those people do not have issues with sobriety. They have issues with violence. I think that Fugazi very early on decided, like, there are so many stories that begin with, like, they did it their way, and then they always end with, like, and then they didn't. And we always thought, like, how about at the end of Fugazi it said, they fucking did it their way. And just let that be the end, all the way. I mean, how many other bands do that? Not many, because it just became insane. Usually bands they usually sign because they're about to break up. This is the truth. Because they don't know what to do anymore. Like, fuck, this sucks, let's break up. I don't know, let's sign. And that's just a bummer. How depressing. Did I answer your question at all?
Yeah.
All right, okay. I don't, the term broke edge is so alien to me. I just don't think like that. I've never was straight edge. I wrote a song called Straight Edge. I think I said earlier, like, for me, straight edge is like, when I wrote the song, it was about a person's right to live his or her life the way they wanted to. So if somebody wants to use a drug, that's their right. If they don't want to use a drug, that's their right too. I actually am not judgmental about that. It's a real fallacy. I think people really have this idea that I'm like this, like, yeah, he used to slap beers out of people's hands. I never slapped a beer out of somebody's hand. It's just not true. I mean, maybe I was dancing in like a Black Flag show and I bumped into a guy and spilled his beer. And he's like, fuck it, just wait till the internet is invented. But this idea of like people, like there's a website called like Edge Breaking or Edge, I don't forget what it's called now. It's so Nazi, like what the fuck, man? Like, so it's like this dude used to claim edge, now he broke edge. It's like, what is this? Like, what are people doing with their time? Like, go get a broom and clean up trash or something and help the world, you know? Stop ratting out your stupid friends. For me, music and activism has always been deeply connected, whether the music is overtly political or not. I think music is something that is still unique in its power to bring people together. Though I'm not playing music right now, I think we could agree that music is why we are actually in this room at this moment. That's significant. One of the reasons I've always played music is I like the idea that there's, like, you create something and then people gather and are actually engaging in something now more than ever. Like, that's, you know, I think right now people, so much of our time is, like, people spend, like, in these, like, social network things that are in complete isolation. Whereas it's very difficult to really organize in the sense that when you feel connected, when you're with people, you kind of can connect with them and you feel something like, yeah, we're not, like, there's a bunch of us here. So for me, music was always significant in terms of activism. And I can remember like seeing bands who were like, they would play a show and then maybe there'd be like a protest and they would play it. I was like, that is so perfect. Because that's like, that's the currency. In terms of marriage equality, it's a fait accompli. It's only a matter of time. Like, my friend of mine once told me, it was such a great, he told me, he said, bigotry always falls on the wrong side of history. And I was like, that is fucking heavy. And I think he's right. Now, we have to wait sometimes. I know that. But I feel like it's really clear to me that, like, marriage equality is just a matter of time. There are some haters hanging on. And they may fuck with, like, I know, was it the, is it 30-some states that have 30 amendments, and they've all, like, every time they shut it down, whatever. It just takes one. Fucking stop the madness. These, and I feel like the idea that people want to enter into an arrangement. But let me tell you about marriage. Just my take on marriage, what it's worth. Like, we grew up in families, and some of us probably have families that are really kind of fucked up. Like, we're angry with our sisters, or brothers, or parents, whatever, but they are still our parents, or our brothers or sisters. And there's a weird, like, disconnection, no matter what. Like, you're really angry, but you know what? You're still I'm still connected to you. I understand there's some cases that is off. I have friends who are like, yep, that's my mom, but I'm done. Still, though, he thinks of her as his mom. My sense about the true definition of marriage for me, in my mind, is wanting to enter into an agreement with somebody else where you actually, essentially, adopt them as a blood relative. To find like a companion, or companions, I don't care, who are people who will be your mirror for the rest of your life, or a long part of your life. That seems so well and healthy. And I don't think it makes any difference whether that person is a man or a woman. For whoever, it doesn't make a difference. And I don't think it's anybody else's fucking business. So marriage equality is just obvious to me that, like, people should be with their chosen blood relatives. I think that people argue about music because they're trying to get to know each other. That's what I think. I think that people argue about things. Sometimes it's like, I fucking hate that, whatever. But it's just pinging. Like, we just ping at each other to figure out what our shapes are. Like, I can remember arguing, like, really, like I said earlier, like, is there keyboards on here? Like, fuck this, Although I have to say that I did break. I remember the Dickies put out a 10-inch. And the guy Chuck Wagon played keyboards, but I had heard the Banana Split song, right? And so I knew they were kind of great, but there was keyboards. And I stood in Orpheus Records on M Street in Washington, D.C., holding this record. And you can ask Rollins, because he remembers it, for like 25 minutes, going like, I don't know. And then Henry's like, I don't know, man, keyboards. I'm like, I know, but fuck Banana Splits, I don't know. And just like going back and forth and back and forth. But really, really what was going on, I was trying to figure out who the fuck I was. You saw the first Britney Spears show? See, and now he's got a fucking shaved head. So, like, seriously, it's fucking, like, I have seen bands that I do not like musically at all. But the crowd likes it in a way that you can't deny it. It's so when you're in a room with that many people so connected or so elated, it just feels incredible. I was once at a football game. It was probably a Redskins game or something. And I remember we were on the upper deck. And this is right when that fucking wave thing was going on. And I was a little cynical about it, like, this guy's like, come on, my dad gave us these tickets. Yeah, okay, we'll go. And so we're sitting there, and there was a guy, a really drunk guy, and he was like, just down like 8 rows below us. We're in the upper deck, and he's going, come on! Come on! He kept doing that, trying to start the wave, right? I'm like, God, this guy's a fucking moron, And he just go, come on, everybody, come the fuck on, show your Redskins pride, come on! Come on! And then he's like, and he starts yelling at the guy, come on, fucking you show your pride. And the guy next to him's like, all right, And then, come on! And he kept yelling, and then like 2 guys, all right, And then it's like, he kept doing it. And then like suddenly, like 4 guys, 5 people, 6, it just started to go. And the thing is that people on the other side of the stadium could start to see it develop. So they knew it was coming. And you could see it widen. I mean, I was right where this thing started, and I saw it going around the corner, and it got wider and wider. And then the other people on other decks started doing it, And it starts going all the way around. It's coming back towards me. And like we're both sitting there going like, fuck! And it comes, and we're just like, yeah! You know? And you're that fucking guy, he's like, yeah, see? You know? It was moronic. But I gotta say, it made me feel something that was pretty incredible, you know?